Hey Wigo, this is Mr. Arrett, and this is another video in the series I have on Google Classroom and how to kind of get up and running with it. The first video was just an overview video, just talking about kind of why you would use Google Classroom. This one's going to be more about how to get started with Google Classroom. So when you first go to Google Classroom, it's this little icon right here. It looks like I don't know, a little white person figure in front of a chalkboard is I think what it's supposed to look like, and it is classroom.google.com is how you'll get there. When you first get there, you're going to have to say that you're a teacher if you haven't ever done anything with Google Classroom before, and then you're going to get a dashboard that looks kind of like this. Now yours isn't going to have any classes on it to start with. To make a class, you're going to have to click up here to the plus, and you're going to have to create class. Notice you can do join class too, so you can be a student or a teacher in Google Classroom. But you're going to want to create a class, and then it's going to pull up, you know, some specifics on how to name your class. I'm just going to call this example class. And then the section, subject, and room, those are all optional. So you can put those in there. You don't have to. There's kind of two schools of thought on different sections of the same class. So for instance, if I had two 8th grade science classes, I've done it both ways where in a year I've tried to run two separate classes from one Google Classroom. Ultimately, for me, I usually made a separate Google Classroom for each class. So I'd have like Arrett Science 1, Arrett Science 2, or whatever the period names were. I found that to be simpler, but you might find it just as easy to make one Google Classroom class, especially if you're really good at like teaching the same thing to both classes on the same day. I was never quite good enough to keep both of my classes in sync like that, so ultimately, like I said, I ended up just separating the classes, and that's what I found easiest. But this is how you would create a class. And then so you go ahead and click create. It'll take a minute to do its thing. What it's doing right now is it's going into your Google Drive and it's creating a folder for this class, and it's building like an infrastructure for that class to operate on. Because this is all heavily tied, to Google Drive, and that's how it works. You're going to get a bunch of like pop-ups probably telling you how it works and all these things. I usually just ignore those, but you know, we'll talk about that later. You can go through those tips if you want, but really that's what I'm here for. So if you want some help, you know, just come get me and I'll walk you through it. Each class has a class code which you can click display, and this is how your students are going to get into the class, is they're going to click join class on their student classroom and type this in. And that's how you will populate your class with students. You can up here select a theme, and you can change, you know, there's all sorts of, look, they got science, math, they got all sorts of things here. A lot of this is new actually from when I used it last time, so it looks like they're streamlining that. You can also upload your own photos, which is fun. I would upload photos of like frogs when we were doing frogs dissections and things like that. But that's how you get a class created, so it's really just that simple. Now if we go to my Google Drive, I would be able to find an example class folder in my Google Drive that's going to house templates for any assignments or things that I'm going to do for this class. We'll talk about that more in a different video here, but for now I just want to kind of show you, like take you on a tour of Google Classroom. So this is your home page or your stream. You can think of this a lot like a social media feed for your classroom. So your newest posts are going to be up at the top. You can just click right here and start typing a post. This is not going to be an assignment or anything, but this would be like just a quick message to your class. Okay. Over here you'll notice a button right there. That's the reuse post button, so you can very quickly go into an old class. Like if I wanted to go into an old science class, so let's say I wanted to go into my old science class and use an assignment or a post that I made there previously, I can click on it and I can put it up immediately and very quickly, which is a super handy feature. You can see that you can this is what it's telling you, is this is where you communicate, you can make announcements, you can comment on student posts and things like that. That is the stream page, and that's probably where students are going to navigate to most of the time. You've also got the classwork page, which is where we're going to spend most of our time, so I'm going to come back to that. The people page, this is where you're going to have your student list. You can add additional co-teachers to your class. You might want to involve like a special education teacher, an associate with your class. This is how you can do that. And then you can also add students, and you can specifically send email invites too, but I've always found it easier for them to put in the code myself. You can see you have a grades tab. Nothing shows up in here right now. Let me jump to an old class and we can look at this. This is kind of a new feature too, so I'm not 100% sure what this is going to look like. Kind of like a grade book system, it looks like. So this is, honestly, this is all new to me, so I'm going to have to dive into this and see what it's all about, because this looks like it could be super, super nice to use. But I'm not going to do that right now. We'll just know that that exists, and that we'll have to look at that in another video. So to navigate between classes, you probably noticed that I picked the 3 bars up there. I can go to Home to go to classes, or I can click on a specific class down here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my example class. And now we'll go back and we will look at the classwork page. This is probably the meat of what you're going to do here. You can see that there are a couple of handy links up here, such as your Google Calendar, which when you add due dates to assignments, they will be put in there. And a class drive folder, and like I said, it created us a folder in our Google Drive, and you can click on that. And if I open that at a new tab here, here's the class folder, which is buried in my Google Classroom folder in your Google Drive. Again, we won't get too into that right now. So this is classwork. This is where you structure your class and you assign work. So you've got several different options here. Material is just like, say you want to post like a YouTube video, you can post that. It's not something that's going to be for a grade, but it is information you want your students to have. That's material. Question is like a polling question, so you could do like a quick exit ticket here with that, and you get like true false responses or multiple choice responses or short answer responses. Reuse posts, I've already showed you that. Here's another place to do it. Topics we'll talk about here in a second. Quiz assignment is that new feature that I've mentioned where it can actually take a Google form, turn it into a quiz, and it will lock down students' Chromebooks while they're taking that quiz so they can't do anything else. Again, that's a new feature. I haven't tested it yet, but it sounds promising. Assignment is probably what you're most interested in, so we're going to go ahead and click on that one. And so you'll get in here, you'll make an assignment for your classes. You can give instructions right down here for it, although those are optional, because a lot of times, like what I would do is rather than typing in instructions, I would just put those instructions in the Google Doc that the assignment's going to be based off of. So what's really handy about this and why it works so well is because I can take a document that I've made in Google Classroom, or excuse me, in Google Drive, and I can use that as the foundation for an assignment for students. So this is just like a math resources sheet that I created earlier today. I'm going to go ahead and add that just as an example, and then you have options over here of what to do with it. So what we can do is we want to make, in most cases, make a copy for each student. What happens when you do this is it will automatically copy this doc, and it will make an editable version for each student with their name attached to it that is attached to this assignment. And then that'd be like, think of it as like a worksheet that you've handed out to students, except now they're all in one place, their names are already on it, and you don't have to do any organization or tracking or anything. All of it will be saved automatically in Google Drive and Classroom. So then you can set due dates here, in which case it'll show up on Google Calendar, and then you can set point values here or set it to ungraded. Topics, we don't have any topics yet, but we can create a topic, and this would be like your unit. So for science, you know, I had like space, I had Earth systems, I'd have things like human impact on the environment. It was each of kind of like my big units I would have topics for it, and then all of the assignments and materials would live under that topic so students knew where to find them. Up here you can see you can send it to multiple classes if you want. This is handy if you do like I did and you have like 2 different classes. And you can even select which students it goes to, so you can differentiate here. You can send certain assignments to certain students, which is handy as well. Down here you can attach different types of files. You'll probably mostly use stuff from Google Drive, but you can attach other files or pictures as well. You can attach YouTube videos, and you can attach links to websites, or what each of those respective icons are for. And then before you hit assign, you also have a couple of other options which are nice, in that you can save a draft if you need to continue working on it later, or you can schedule it to go live at a specific time. That is most handy for like quizzes and things. That can be handy because you can schedule a quiz to go live like right at the start of a certain time in your class. That's pretty much the overview of like how to each sections of Google Classroom and how to get started with one and how to make an assignment. We will go into some other details later of more things that you can do with this and how you can structure a class, but that should get you started. So I would recommend create your first class, create an assignment, create your first topic, and then just play for a little bit with it and see how it works, and then we'll come back and we can do some more things and dive a little bit deeper into how you can structure a class like this.